AI can build your YouTube scaffolding, but the moment that you try to get AI to actually be you, viewers bounce. I want to show you the boundary that I use, and this workflow that I've spent months building that saved me days of work. I've built AI tools for businesses for the better part of a decade, and lately I keep seeing AI being used to churn out these soulless AI slop video content posts on LinkedIn. It's getting pretty bad. So I designed my own setup, and I've designed it in such a way that it does all of the boring scaffolding work for me, while freeing me up to put all of my energy into the content that I actually wanted to create in the first place, which makes my channel more human, more me. And so I'd like to walk you through how my AI tool works. My goal is to build this in such a way that the more AI that you put into it, the more human the channel actually becomes. So like I said, I've spent months building this. I'm really excited about it, and I think you'll really appreciate how AI can help you be more you after you see what I've built. So without any further ado, let's get into it. All right, so first let me show you my screen. And it looks a little complicated right now, but I'm gonna walk you through everything so that this makes perfect sense. Okay, so just trust me on it, go with it, and I think you'll start to see how this all works, and you'll start to make connections and see how this actually helps your channel to become more human, helps you to become more human, your content to have a stronger signal of what actually makes you you. All right, so let's dive into this. This first thing that I want to show you here, which looks very complicated and scary, but again, bear with me, is called N8N. And it's an automation platform where each of these little blocks is, well, it's sort of like a block, and you can wire it together. And point of creating the pipelines is to automate things. Okay, so you'll have a start to the pipeline, put something into that, and then it does a bunch of things to it, and then you get a result out the other end. So rather than try to explain it and you try to wrap your head around it that way, I'm just going to show you how this works, and I think it'll start to click. Okay, so the other thing that I'm going to show you here, really simple, is just Notion. It's a Notion database, and those of you who haven't used Notion, think like Google Sheets or Excel. It's just a table in this case. Okay, so the first thing that I would do as a creator is you have an idea, right? You want to talk about something. So what you can do is, instead of having this raw idea and you need to then think about, right, how do I create this into a good title and a good thumbnail, and how do I make a good hook out of this, and then what are the bullet points, and trying to create the whole thing. The whole point of this is it does all of that for you. Okay, so all you need to do is have the raw idea. So for me, what that looks like is every morning-ish, I'll go out and I'll just let my mind kind of relax, and I'll record myself when I have an idea, I have some thoughts, and I'll record this idea, and it might be, well, it's not going to be organized, right? Because I'm just off the cuff, I'm just saying it. But as soon as you capture that, let me just do an example here. Let's say I'm doing mind performance here. You know what, let me type in article, that'll help. Okay, well, I found a super basic article. That's okay. So I'm gonna just take that article you saw I copy, and I'm gonna paste it here. Here, let me just paste. Right, so there's the article, and I'm going to just trigger this first workflow. Now, normally it would go automatically, but I'm going to trigger it so you can see. Now let me zoom in just a bit. There we go. Okay, so you can see that it's actually running. And what's happening here is this first Notion block is it pulls that article out of Notion. And then it goes to a claim expert here, which is an AI. And the AI's whole job is to distill everything down from that raw idea down to the claim. Now it's going to generate a few different claims, and then it's going to put them back into Notion, as you can see here. And so if we were to click on this, we can see, oh, you know, here's a few different options for our core claim that we want to make. And we can choose as a human which one we like the most, and we can edit it a little bit. And so this is one part of the human in the loop where we can actually make sure that this is not AI slop. If it's using words or it's saying things in a way that we wouldn't like, we can change it. So then we pick it, we're like, right, this is the one that we like. Let's say we like it exactly as it is. Well, then it would go on to this second workflow, and this is where it gets super interesting, okay? So you know, with AI slop, you can tell almost instantly that it's AI because you get these words like quietly and silently, and it's not X, it's Y, or and this matters, stuff like that. And it doesn't sound like you at all. So one of the first things that I do here is I've got a markdown file that has basically how I sound, my whole voice, what words I like to use, what phrases I like to use. Am I flowery and am I, or am I more precise in my speech? And so what it does is it pulls a file that has all of that information and it brings it along in the creation process. And that's what this node right here does. So separately on Notion, I've got it stored. Okay, so I'm just gonna fire this up, and this first Notion node is going to pull from the raw idea that we had back here, and it's also pulling from the claim. Okay, so it's basing this whole video off of the claim. And you saw there, it grabbed my voice file, and now I've got a hook expert. And this hook expert is, again, an AI, and its whole purpose is to understand how to generate great hooks. Now, not just generate any great hooks, but generate great hooks for my niche, for my brand, for my audience, understanding what my content pillars are going to be. And so it has all of that information, and its job is to create a number of hooks. Okay, forget exactly how many it's supposed to be creating. But once it creates all of those hooks, then it gets passed along, as it is right now, to this second node. And the second node is a critic. So as soon as this critic comes up with the list of scores for each of the hooks, then you get a cutoff. And if a certain hook, if it scores below this cutoff, then it needs to be rewritten. But if it scores above a cutoff, that means it's a great hook and we want to hold on to it. So you can see here that the low hooks are being fed into this rewriter pipeline, and you've got an AI that will rewrite all of the poor hooks. And then later, that rewritten hook is combined with all of the great hooks. It's re-ranked, and then it's ultimately given back to Notion, where you can see it just populated here. Now is the time where us as the human, we can go in and we can check out what the hooks are. And again, we can choose which one we want. We can make any edits that we want to it. If it sounds a little too much like AI, if it's not what we would want to say, now's our opportunity to change it. And so when we do find one that we like and we've made the changes that we want to make, again, we just pick which one we like. It's like literally talking to an employee, and you just tell it, this is the one I choose, that's my chosen hook, done. And then we move on to the thumbnail. And the thumbnail, it just goes through the whole thing again. Now, this workflow it looks very similar to the one I just went through, so I'm not going to take you through it all over again. But we do this for not just the hook and the thumbnail text, but we would do it for the title. Now, there's a reason why I've structured it this way, where it will do claim and then hook and then thumbnail and then title, because some of these elements, they depend on prior elements. You can't just, well, you can create the title first if you want, but the title really depends on what your hook is going to be, what your framing is going to be for the video. So I've designed this in such a way that the ordering makes sense, and I hope that you can see from all of this that there is a way to offload all of the stuff onto AI that you actually don't want to do anyway, without sacrificing the stuff that you really care about. I'm sure that you guys have seen AI slop in LinkedIn or YouTube, where you can tell from end to end, like some AI went and did a bunch of research online and scraped a bunch of stuff together, decided on what it wanted to create, and then literally wrote everything, produced everything, the voice, the video, like all of it has been AI generated, and nobody wants to listen to that. Nobody wants to see that. So this keeps you in the loop. You're the one that needs to generate the ideas. You're the one that needs to make the decisions along the way, like a CEO of a media company would. And so, yeah, so this is the way that I think about using AI tools. Now, is it as simple as just one click and then publish hundreds of times a day? Of course not. But is that really what you want? You know, your personal brand's not gonna thrive by outsourcing the whole thing to AI, because you're not there and you need to be there to have a personal brand. So I'll let you know that with this tool, which I've just finished, by the way, this is an old version of it, but it's very visual and all of the pipelines are in one place. And so I thought it would be great to show you how this actually works. And you know what? I'm just, as a sneak peek, I'm gonna come down here and just show you a pipeline. I'm actually gonna show you how this works. This is for the thumbnail visual creation, which is another thing that takes tons of time. You know, I'm not somebody that is an expert on this, but I can generate the kind of thumbnail that I want in minutes, and it's amazing. So let me just show you how this works. Hopefully this is the workflow that I'm thinking of. So you'll have some kind of maybe like a vague idea of how this should look like. Maybe you want an object on the right side of the screen and you're seeing there being text on the left side of the screen, or maybe it's flipped. So anyway, you'd come in here and you go, right, for this one, the object's gonna be on the right, and on the left, there's gonna be nothing there because I'd like to have text. I wanna save that room for text. And so I've got a whole Pinterest board. It doesn't have to be Pinterest, it can be anything. where you've got these visuals that you think would look great, and you can save those and you feed them into this pipeline, and it will grab that visual, put it into this pipeline. This pipeline is hooked up to Nano Banana on the back end. And so it gives it to Nano Banana, it gives it a whole prompt on exactly what this should look like. And it follows a lot of the thumbnail rules for YouTube, the rule of threes, and it talks about the proportions that you need and making sure that the transitions are smooth, all that stuff. It's all covered. And then by the end here, and again, I'm just doing this manually so that you guys can see, but I've got this URL here that I can just copy. And let me see if I can paste it, and hopefully it comes up. Boom, there you go. And if you look back at my last video, that's what it was. It's that easy. And so this visual I actually found on Pinterest, right? So I just go on there and it's super simple. I'm just adding stuff to my Pinterest board, stuff that I think looks cool. And then I choose it, send it away, and my AI team creates the thumbnail. And then it's just a matter of putting the text on. So this was just a concrete example. It's something I've been working on for a while to make it this good. And I've made a lot of upgrades to this, and I put a front end on it as well. It looks not so complicated, and you don't have to do a bunch of copy and pasting. So now you actually just use a button, and it takes me through. It's smooth sailing the whole way. So just as a, me to you right now, well, two things. One, if you want to use this, if you want to trial it out, send me a message, get in touch with me somehow. And I'm keen to get this out and help people to create YouTube videos without sinking tons of time. I think that there are lots of creators out there that could have done really great work, but they were stopped from getting to the point where they were actually getting a return and getting into the flow of things because of this barrier. So anyway, reach out to me. And then the second thing that I wanted to say, once this runs through and it's going to generate the scaffolding for your YouTube video, and then you publish it, well then I'm building a hookup where all of the stats from that video are then pulled and fed back into the system. So you saw that you can generate title, hook, thumbnail, all that stuff. You post the video after you've done it, and it does well, does poorly, somewhere in between. All of those stats are then taken and fed back into the system so that the AI can then assess what's working and what's not. So if your click-through rate wasn't so good, then maybe the problem is with the thumbnail and the title, but not with the intro. Or if your retention was bad but the click-through rate was good, well that means that the title and the thumbnail are probably okay, but maybe your intro needs some work. And so then it will go in and it will look at the prompts that feed that intro pipeline, and it will make the tweaks and adjustments. And so you don't even have to worry about keeping this up to date and making sure that it's performing the way that you want it to perform. It's just already programmed to maximize your growth. It really is like having a YouTube team right on your device. Again, if you want to use stuff like this, let me know. I'm super keen to build things like this that keeps a human in the loop at the points where a human needs to be in the loop. And this is true not just for content creation, but this is true for your knowledge work. This is true for your self-development. This is true for everything. We need to be very careful about where we're using AI. And if we put it in the right place and it's doing the role that we don't want to and shouldn't be performing, then it can do incredible things for us. So if you thought this video was cool, I've got another video that I made just prior to this that talks about how the human brain and our humanness is going to be a $6 trillion market. And I'll go ahead and link it here. Check it out.